Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's date is March 16th, 2024, and I've got some major breaking news coming out here for you. We're going to be discussing the funding for Ukraine. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the aid package that's held up in Congress, in U.S. Congress right now, and primarily we're going to discuss Europe. Okay, if you look on your screen here, it says Europe to use frozen Russian assets for Ukraine war. So I've got some word here that European leaders are planning on taking a significant step to confiscating the Russian assets that were taken at the start of the war here in Ukraine. So if you weren't aware of that, during the start of the war, there was lots of Russian assets that were seized by Western powers. Okay, there was lots of cash that was taken. There was like Russian oligarch yachts, like yacht boats that were seized. They were seizing like airplanes, private jets, all kinds of stuff. And I'm assuming all of that can add up to what is being told here, up to $300 billion in Russian assets that were seized. So what they want to do here is they want to try to access the interest that has been made on this total amount here of 300 billion. So there's potentially billions of dollars right now that has been made in interest just off of this 300 billion, and they want to access that and give that to Ukraine. So that's what they're trying to do right now. So Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, and also Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, along with, I believe it was the Polish prime minister, got together and in Brussels, and whenever they were meeting, they were discussing a proposal to put forward to confiscate this money here and use it for Ukraine. So we'll talk about that more in just a minute. But I want to give you some information here about the money held up in Congress, in U.S. Congress right now. So there's like 60 billion that's potentially held up here that could be going to Ukraine, but there's a lot of issues here with like the southern border, where Congress can't agree to send this money here, and a lot of this is held up because of the House Speaker, okay, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. So I want to show you this here real quick. This is on the Independent, and it says House Republicans will pass Ukraine aid after backing down on border demand. So this is just a day ago, but I know we do have Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, coming out as well and saying that they plan to try to find another path, another way to get the money to Ukraine. So apparently they're going to pass this deal here, but they're going to do it differently. They're talking about doing it in terms of like a loan or something like that. So I just want to kind of go over this just real quick. So House Republican leadership appears to be officially backing down from their demand for lawmakers to address border security before any further aid was passed to support Ukraine in its war against the Russian invasion. So this was a big deal here, was the border security. They wanted a border security deal for the southern border because of all these people that are coming into the country right now. They wanted something done with that first before passing some sort of deal for Ukraine, this 60 billion that's supposed to be going to them. And there's also like another, I don't know, 30 billion or so that's supposed to be going to Israel as well. So as far as we know here, they're going to be trying to pass this. But again, like I said, I have some information as well that supposedly Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is talking about trying to find another path, utilizing some sort of loan assistance program to kind of give it to Ukraine right now, but they want the money back instead of just straight up, having the American people pay for it out of their taxes, which obviously is never a good thing, right? So moving on, let's discuss this now. I want to talk more about this this money that's held up here for Ukraine in terms of the Russian assets that were seized. So this is on The Guardian. EU moves towards using 27 billion in profit from frozen Russian assets, from Ukraine. Okay, so it says here, EU leaders are to take a significant step towards confiscating a potential 27 billion in profit generated over the next 4 years by Russian state assets frozen in Europe to help fund the war in Ukraine. So apparently there's like 27 billion in profit generated from this money being held in banks across Europe. So they want to access that and see if they can send that to Ukraine now. Excuse me. Officials at the European Commission are poised to put forward what they believe is a legally robust proposal to be considered by member states, possibly before a meeting of prime ministers in Brussels next Thursday. About 300 billion belonging to the Russian central bank has been frozen in the West, largely in foreign currency, gold, and government bonds. About 70% of these are held in Belgian Central Securities Depository Euroclear, which is holding the equivalent of 190 billion. Wow, that's a lot. So deposits held in Europe are likely to generate between 15 billion and 20 billion in after-tax profits between now and the end of 2027, the end of the EU's current financial cycle, depending on the evolution of global interest rates, a senior EU official said. So that's why they're saying between 15 and 20 billion euros is what it could potentially produce. This year, they are expected to generate between 2 billion and 3 billion in profits, depending on potential interest rate changes. Money could then go to straight to Ukraine. While officials are hopeful of an agreement on seizing the profits, they do not expect a deal yet on how the money should be used. But some states are against using it to fund Ukraine's military, preferring that the cash be spent on reconstruction or humanitarian efforts. So that's another thing. They're going to run into some roadblocks here because some countries don't want the money to go to the war. They want it to go to reconstruction or humanitarian efforts to rebuild Ukraine, obviously, because it's been destroyed. Ireland, for example, is bound by neutrality through long-standing foreign policy, but it contributes funds to Ukraine on condition that the money is spent on non-lethal purposes, such as clearing landmines. Sources say the European Commission will not offer options at this time in relation to the use of the money. It means they can agree in principle to use the revenues of profits, but then have a further discussion on where that money can go constitutionally for every member state. So it is going to take some time for them to figure this out, and it's pretty the short timing here, because Ukraine really needs this money right now, and it doesn't look like they're going to get it right away, even if they can figure out a way to unfreeze this money for them. The process has gathered momentum, and we expect the wheels will move very quickly on this once the decision is made. Last month, EU leaders agreed that the proceeds could be held in a separate account, clearing the war for Step B, which would be a decision that this money could be confiscated and sent to Ukraine. The communique, drafted by ambassadors for prime ministers, approval next week is sufficiently vague. The European Council reviewed progress on the next concrete steps towards directing extraordinary revenues stemming from Russia's immobilized assets for the benefits of Ukraine, including the funding of military support, it states. It is expected that some of the money will be retained in the EU as part of a defense fund against expected Russian legal retaliation in the long term. So I guess they're expecting Russia to retaliate legally as well to try to get that money back, for them confiscating and potentially trying to use the interest money that's generated off of this money being held in the banks. So any agreement will put pressure on the British government to follow suit. The Russian central bank holds 26 billion in the UK, and the Foreign Secretary David Cameron has joined the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in calling for the money to be seized and handed to Kyiv. However, the idea is being resisted by financial institutions who fear it could undermine trust in the City of London. So, very big news here. I've been wanting to talk to you guys about this for some time, but there really wasn't a lot of information coming out here. But we've got information coming out now that it looks like they're going to be moving to unfreeze these assets here and use the interest money that's been generated to send to Ukraine. So we're looking at potentially at least 2 to 3 billion, upwards of maybe 20 billion or even 30 billion, depending on how much they're able to pull from the future interest payments that could be made here. So obviously Europe is trying to do whatever they can here to get money for Ukraine, because they obviously don't have their own money to give. Otherwise, they would have done that already. Okay, so they don't have their own money to give, and they need money to fund Ukraine. And many of these countries, like France, President Emmanuel Macron has come out many times and said we need to step up and start defending them now. And if they fall, we're going to have to step in and send troops on the ground to defend Ukraine. So I think a lot of countries are starting to realize that that's a real possibility, and they're getting worried here. So they're trying to figure out whatever they can do to generate some money here to give to Ukraine. So let me know what your thoughts down below are. comment below. And if you enjoyed this content, please smash the like button. And also, if you enjoy my content here on this channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Thanks so much for tuning in for this update. Everybody take care and God bless. See you in the next one.